What's up, everybody? This is Dallin, Candland. We are back with you today, episode number 31. I am excited for this episode, but man, this is going to be a humbling episode, so I hope you're in the mood for just kind of empathizing a little bit with me and with some of the content that I'll be dropping today. There's a lot that I have to share, and the first thing that I wanted to get out of the way real quick is that I've had to change some things up. Right now I'm in my brother's room. I usually record in my room, but I have changed things up. And I wanted to talk a little bit about change. Holding on to your identity when change happens, how to respond when change happens that you don't really want, and just a little bit about your mindset and just some general thoughts that have come to mind and some breakthroughs, I guess, that have come to mind from my own recent breakdowns. So let's talk about one of those recent breakdowns. I had a point where I had very little control of my sleeping schedule, and this was a couple days ago. I just tried to go to sleep, and I woke up at about 3:30 a.m., and I'd gone to bed at like midnight. So I worked on some stuff and some new concepts, which is really cool, until about 8. And then I decided to go to bed at 8 because I was feeling tired. I ended up sleeping in till 4 p.m. And that was yesterday, Sunday. So yesterday, I'm a very positive person. I'm looking ahead very positively at what's going to happen. But yesterday was one of the least restful Sundays of my entire life because I slept through that almost entire rest period when I could reset and look back at how my week went. I slept from 8 p.m. to 4 p.m. That is 8 hours of time. And I did the math in my head, which didn't take very long, that this is the amount of time that I would have slept if I was working a graveyard job, meaning I'd stay up all night. So what did I do last night? I stayed up all night. And I did some thinking, I did some diving, I did a ton of praying. And all those prayers led to me doing things and trying things. So what did I do? Well, I looked in some books, and I had this green piece of paper that I wrote some stuff down, some general insights that I wanted to throw at everybody. And I guess this is kind of the perfect storm, is where I'm really trying to redefine myself and position this podcast in a way that helps everybody. And what I've found recently is just that, I've been trying to do what's best for the podcast. I had a really good conversation with Alan J. Cook, somebody who's in my church when we were living in a different state earlier ago. And he's now running his own podcast. He's written books. He's doing things that I would like to do in my own future, starting businesses and whatnot. And he just kind of told me that I need to have some consistency between all of my platforms. So if I want my message to be seen beyond the moment, my podcast needs to be called Seen Beyond the Moment. This Yield Today thing is great, but it mostly applies to me. And it's something that I could talk about in another way, but I don't see it really being the cusp of this podcast. The cusp of this podcast needs to be something that people can relate to immediately. I've been reading some marketing books lately. This guy was basically shut me down like hardcore. It's like, if you're relying on an acronym or like something super catchy, it's going to take a while for people to catch on. It's better to have something that super makes a lot of sense, that really connects with people. You should be able to communicate your vision really effectively and really quickly and powerfully. And I haven't really been able to do that with this podcast. I could go all over the place. I could be like, well, I share scripture stories, I share business stories, I share my life experiences. And yes, this is all true, but what's the big vision? So that's really important. And for me, I like to call myself a big picture thinker. I like to have a big picture in mind. I like to have something that I'm working towards. But what happened was recently all of that just started crumbling down. I'm paying every month for this podcast to stay alive, but I really wanted to make a real difference for people. And I wanted to give a lot of backing and power to everything else that I do in a professional stance and mostly this personal growth sharing stuff stance. And I've also scheduled some interviews, and it's sort of crazy to think that like I could have these interviews under this one podcast name and it might not do as well. And that sounds ludicrous. That sounds crazy. But hear me out. Hear me out a little bit. It's important to have a really good idea of why you're doing what you're doing. You need to have focus. It says it in the Bible that where there's no vision, the people perish. And the opposite of that is where there's vision, the people live. And so the real question is, what's your vision? What is your identity? We live in a world that is constantly trying to impede our identity, to erode our identity, and mostly to change our identity to something else. You know, there's a lot of different things about, oh, you could make a living doing streaming. Yes, that's true. But that will take a lot of time. And the question is, do you want to put in that time? And that's a question for everybody. You can't really do this one-size-fits-all thing because there's different opportunities in every niche and in every different thing that you look. And it'll all take effort. It'll all take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that we often don't talk about, regardless of what you're getting into. It'll take some time, you know, it'll take a lot of work. And I've put in a lot of work over the years, and I think this is the big lie that we all sometimes subscribe to. I know I do. That I'm getting to for this episode, and that is that your work will not pay off. That's the first big lie. So let's just have this episode be about the 3 big lies we tell ourselves, or something that erode our identity. That sounds cool. Number one is that you will not make it. You will not grow, and you will not be able to build from where you're at. It's easy to look at what you've been able to do in the past and say, hey, this is who I am, and that's not going to change, and nothing's going to change that. But recently, last night, I played a little bit from a game, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, on my 3DS, played the updated version, and I had this little epiphany of sorts. So when I hop into the game, there's my old save file that I haven't played in months and months and months. There's also the save file from the person who had the game before I did. And there in the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, there's the point when you're a child, and there's the point where you become an adult. So I had the thought, after playing a while in this child form that I've never gotten out of in the game, mostly because I have not invested the time into it. Hey, what would happen if I just jumped into the adult version, cold turkey, and just deep dive and see if I can figure it out? So that's what I did. I jumped right straight into this other save file that was present on the game cartridge, and guess what? I don't even know where I was. No idea where I was. I had all these items that I had no idea what was going on. I had literally no clue of what was happening. I actually tried leaving this one room. I was kind of walking around, right? And there's this room that to get to where I was, I had to have gone through this room. And I had no idea how I could have gone through this room in the first place. I had a hook shot or a grip hook or whatever. I had these other things, but I had no idea how to use them. I don't even know how I got in them. I just had them. But that's because I hadn't gotten the experience. The thing is, you are getting experience right now. You're getting experience at sleeping. You're getting experience at writing. You're getting experience at coding. You're getting experience at whatever the thing is you're doing, that you're consistently doing, you're getting experience at that. I read about 100 pages from the book Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell, which has some really good insights and stuff in it. And he basically just talks about this 10,000 hour rule, how Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they all got positioned and put in these really good opportunities that they seized and they owned. And these things gave them extra practice. They gave them extra growth opportunities. And we sometimes forget that all of these extra growth opportunities, these internships, these side hustles, they position you to succeed a big time later on. But we completely forget those things. You can look into the video game industry. You look at any industry you want, and these people who are doing super good often were doing really good when they were younger, or they were working on it. They were figuring it out. Most of the people that are in their industries, maybe some of them are figuring it out, but they already were figuring it out a long time ago. And that's basically the one thing I wanted to share with that is if you're telling yourself the lie that you're not going to make it, I would encourage you to look at what you've done in the last 6 months and seeing what you've accomplished, how you've been able to reshape your life, especially through this pandemic and through everything that's happened with this. What have you changed? What has stayed the same? You know, these things that stay the same, they're a big part of your identity. And if you want to change your identity, all you need to do is change your habits. Good example is me with podcasting. A year ago, I didn't have a podcast, but now I consider myself a podcaster. Why? Because this is my 31st episode, and in time of, over total time, I've done at least 5 or 6 hours of podcasting, and I've done a lot of YouTube videos and other different things, so I have a good variety of experience, but I also keep going. And these things, again, what I'm saying is they position you. So success is, there's so many different things to contribute to your success. But one of the big things is what you do when you have your free time. Now, I do not want to so let's hop into this second lie that I was telling myself. And so the first lie, again, was that you're not going to make it. And the second lie is that you're not helping anybody. You know, you're not making any real progress. You know, you're not... Let's see, your whole life is being reshaped. And you don't want to connect the dots. So the first big lie, like I said, is that you are not going to make it. And the second big lie that we often tell ourselves is, is that you need to have it all figured out right now. But the whole concept, the whole thing about life is it's spontaneous. It's different every single day. There's different opportunities. There's different videos on YouTube being uploaded all the time, and each of those could potentially influence your life in a big way. Reading Outliers today honestly made me rethink a little bit about success and positioning myself for future success, and mostly how I've been positioned for all the successes that I've ever had. The book talks a lot about environment and family structure, and I've been super duper blessed in both of those ways. My Uncle Mark has helped me out a lot with some of my entrepreneurial endeavors. And there's other people that may be a lot smarter than me or whatever, but they don't have those same benefits, and so it's harder for them to get started because they don't have as much help or backing. One of the craziest things I read in the book today is that Bill Gates got access to these sharing code computers that didn't even become popular until much later. He got access to them when he was in like 8th grade, and same with this person they ended up co-founding Microsoft with. They had all this experience and all this amazing opportunity that was basically given to them because they were in a good situation and because their families and their community were interested in coding, and they just saw the opportunity, and Bill Gates put in the time. He's putting in 8 hours a day a lot of times for almost 6 or 7 years, from like 7th grade to, or end of 8th grade to like end of high school. He was putting in so much time to his craft. So when he was like, leaving Harvard, and he's like, hey, I'm going to start my own Microsoft, my own computer company, he had already put in so much work, and he had already put in a ton of experience to develop his skills and to grow. And so he was positioned to succeed, and he was positioned to grow. And so he did not have it all figured out when it got started. He simply got skills and he built on those skills. I think one of the things that I've been struggling with the most lately is that I need to have everything figured out, and that I need to know if this podcast is going to work. I need to know exactly what to title my next book. I need to know all these different things. But the truth really is that what's important is that you keep going. It's about the process. It's about the growing process. It's not so much about the company or the brand. It's about you and your ability to use those skills. So let's say you had a really good company and then it just goes under, but you're the one who built that company. Of course you can use those skills to make a new company and to start a whole new thing. And so what's valuable isn't so much the company, it's what you learn from that business struggle. And that's the same thing with me right now. What is being evaluated, what is most valuable is not, my failures to sleep or my failures to stay on task or get this book out as fast as I wanted to or whatever. What's important is how I use this to help myself grow and get better in the future. That's really what's most important. And I'll tell you right up front, I really don't know what I'm going to be doing, what all this is leading up to. I'm trying to get an internship in the next month or so, and we'll see what happens. I'm really going to try to put myself out there because I have the time, have the means. My family's been more than supportive of me, and it's really up to me. It's really up to me. And that really goes along with the third lie that I often, really last night, that I told myself was just that I'm not capable. And that's complete hogwash, because right after I kind of got out of this spell that I was in, I did 30 push-ups, I took a cold shower, and I cleaned up my room a little bit, and I instantly felt way better. And it contributes to this long line of bouncing back from my own previous failures and doing way better because those things happened, because I struggled in that way, So it's really valuable that I had those struggles and I had those failures, because they have really, I think, they've positioned me to think more creatively and just really to think more, I would say, thinking more with in a more healthy way that's healthy for my mindset, and not in a way that's self-depreciating. Because like I said, the lie is that you don't have the skills or you don't have the ability. If you look back at your past, I bet you will see some different experiences, times when you owned up to the opportunity, and that's what you want to take advantage of. That's what you want to really seize and hone in on. Because let's say you just lost your job, you have all these soft skills, you have all these abilities that will set you apart for when you do your next big thing. So it's important that you keep those things in mind. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is that you need to keep those things in mind that are valuable to you and that have set you apart in the past, because the chances are that those exact things will set you apart in the future. So you don't want to just throw those things to the side and say they don't exist when they do. And yeah, that's really just such a big thing, is that you need to know, you need to believe that your future successes and stuff are being built on how you're doing right now, but that can, of course, be heavily influenced. So basically, what I'm trying to say, the other thing that I've often been telling myself lately is just that there's not really a point in trying because there's always going to be another obstacle, and all those things, they completely. No. So all these things kind of go along with this point of being more self-responsible and being willing to accept my failures. So in The Magic of Thinking Big, there's this really, really powerful part in the book when this girl who's done all this dancing and she's done a lot of work, I think she was a dancer or something, but that's not exactly the point. She had done this really good performance, but she didn't quite make the grade to get to this high level that she wanted. So she went and talked to her teacher, and her teacher, or the person, you know, assessing her performance, basically said, "My dear, have courage to face your faults." And so that was really powerful for me to read when I was like 17 or 18 years old. Was that you need to be willing to accept these failures or these struggles and say like, yeah, I messed up, but that means I can completely improve at that. I can do way better. So if you've been really bad about keeping track of time, or you've done really bad at going to bed early like me, that's okay because you can use that knowledge and information, that honesty with yourself, and you can use that to your advantage. You can use a watch to keep track of your time. You can do all these different things so that these things end up coming out to your benefit and they don't hold you back anymore. So I wanted to talk really fast just about a little bit about this idea of the perfect storm. This is a thought that really is interesting to me. And it's, for me, this is like when everything has kind of compounded to the point, all of your previous mistakes or whatever has compounded to the point where it is affecting your personal paradigm of yourself and how you see yourself. And it's starting to erode, get into all these different things. So like I woke up really late today. I would consider last night kind of a breakdown of sorts, but today is my breakthrough day. It's my bounce back and learn from it tremendously sort of day. And I wrote this thought on this green piece of paper. I wrote, things had compounded to the point where it was now a problem. So in the past, me not getting enough sleep or me doing this or that, you know, like staying up too late playing video games or whatever, wasn't too bad doing it once. And let me preface this that I have not played any video games on any day besides Friday or Saturday for about 5 weeks, which is, I'll give myself props for that all day long because that is a big accomplishment for me. Because I've looked back at previous semesters and times when I was playing video games throughout the week, whenever and ever, even if I was done with my homework, I tended to be a little bit more stressed. And I believe stress is very important. There's good stress, but there's also this negative stress that can really add gray hairs and just is not good. Not good for your overall development a lot of times. So that's what I wanted to get rid of. But, you know, basically there's these thoughts, these different things that had escalated to the point, and I believed in them enough, like how I wasn't going to get an internship, or I wasn't doing great, or I wasn't helping anybody. And I told myself these things enough times, I really started to believe them. This morning was honestly pretty scary because I didn't want to look at any of my journals. I wasn't thinking about any of my journals. I didn't want to really pray, but I ended up praying with my brother and by myself anyway. All these different things had completely infested. That's a much better word. They completely infested my brain and my peace. So think of like a bunch of termites just completely breaking down this giant edifice, this giant building, just whatever you want to sound, whatever sound you want to use. There was some damage being done. I let some termites kind of get into my mindset, into my thought process, and it's breaking me down. Last night was pretty humbling. I prayed and prayed and prayed, and then I ended up booting up some video games that I liked and was just playing around and was just thinking and writing down little notes. And here's the thing. So just as there's things that, if left unchecked, can be like those termites and wear us down, there are things that if we continue to do them, it will build us up and set us completely apart from everybody else. So it's like, I guess, the ants, because ants can carry so much more than their actual weight, and that is awesome, obviously. So like when you're having a picnic and an ant sees this cool little peanut and picks it up and brings it back to the colony, he feels pretty proud of himself. And over time, your picnic lunch will be gone because all these ants have so much power to take away from your personal store. And so, if let's think of yourself as an ant for a second, you would want to have as much personal store and food as you could possibly get. And for being able to like store that up in the beginning is so powerful. And let me just share this with my book. The last 5 days, I've written over 500 words in my book. Every single one of those days, I hit a 5,000 word goal in 5 days, which honestly is amazing to me, because there was one day when I had like a 4,000 word day, and sure, that was great, but that excitement wore off the next day. Whereas with this, I have this habit that's continuing to build up, and it can build up this great, awesome thing. I believe that I can write my next book pretty stinking fast, because I already have an idea for it, and I'm already developing the habit for it. Your identity is made up by your habits, your circumstances, how you respond to opportunities, ethics, morals, friends, a lot of different things, honestly. But it's so important that you hold on to the habits that you want to hold on to when you're having these difficult times. I think back to, when I was on my mission trip and I got this giant bike, I had this bike wreck. I now had to take some time to heal up, and I had a really good missionary companion and supportive missionaries that were around me that helped me out to get through it. But I also had scripture study and I had prayer and these other things I was doing as a missionary that helped me hold on to my identity, and what I was trying to do. So when this happened, it did not throw everything off the table, did not chuck it out the window. Instead, it helped me grow. And that's what I want to do right now with everything that is happening in my life, all the uncertainty, all the struggle. I really want to turn this around and be all the better for it. And that's really what I believe is possible. I believe that just because you were planted in a spot that might not have been that great, you can create an environment, you can create a life for yourself that feeds into you and helps you build to become the best version of you that there could be. There's a lot of different books, there's a lot of different things. You might have to stick your head out a little bit to get access to some of them, but they're worth reading into. They're worth believing in the concepts, and at least you don't have to believe everything that people say, of course, but it's just interesting to think that people believe in these different ways and how that's helped them get to where they are now. We've talked about a lot today. It's kind of been a let's just have Dallin talking to the mic episode, but I really hope it has been helpful. I really, really hope. Like, the last couple days for me have been atrocious as far as my personal effectiveness and overall satisfaction with life. Honestly, I've been living kind of on autopilot, and that's not a good way to live life. There's some things that are good to have kind of on autopilot, like your morning routine, but some things, they need to be enjoyed and appreciated for every second that you get to have them. And let's go back to the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time example real quick. So when I was in that dungeon or that castle or wherever I was. I think I was at the very end of the game. Again, I had no idea where I was. I had no idea where I was and how I had gotten there. And all these different experiences, I had no experience with them. And so I was very not prepared for anything that was ahead. I didn't even know what was ahead because I hadn't played the game and I hadn't gone through it. Whereas if I play back from my own save file, eventually I'll get to that point and I'll be like, oh, we're in this castle. I have gotten these items. I have had these experiences. I've had these personal victories that have prepared me for this next big thing. It's the next big step. So it's not this little guy taking this giant step that you cannot even see. It's taking these little steps that slowly get you to that point, so it's the next logical step. And so that's why you got to take those little steps. You got to be willing to grow. And you have to understand that if you are going to dare greatly, your identity is going to get it tested at times. People are going to want to know why you believe what you believe, why you're a dream chaser, why you say what you'll do, why you say what you'll do. Well, I guess like why do you talk about these things, and why, where are you coming from, and why do you believe it, and what are you doing right now to show that you believe in the things that you believe in. And believing wow, believing is great, but there needs to be some action behind it that really supports it. I remember back when I was in high school, and I remember talking with somebody. We were watching all these freshmen running around. And that kind of goes along with what I wanted to kind of end this on, is that you cannot say that just because you are in this terrible spot of your life or wherever that you are destined to be here. No, you can grow, you can get better, you can succeed eventually, but it takes these habits of success. Waking up, making your bed, brushing your teeth, exercising, reading. Sure, doing these things once isn't going to change your life, but doing them over a period of time and then applying what you learn, yes, that's going to change your life. Because it's going to open you up to new opportunities. You're going to be open to different things. And you're going to start to see yourself as you truly are, which is a being of infinite worth and infinite potential. But it takes a lot of learning and growth, and there's so much different things that want you to believe that that's complete garbage, but I've learned otherwise. I have had so many different experiences where I've been able to help somebody feel better about themselves, and I feel better about myself too. And for me, like, prayer really helps me to feel connected to who I truly am, which I believe is a child of God, a son of God, as I believe we're all either a son or a daughter of God. So basically the real takeaway from this is that when everything's going wrong, I would encourage you to write down a list of, some habits and some opportunities and some people, and just really thinking about what you want to accomplish. And when a difficult time comes up, I remember the quote that says, never waste a good crisis. And that doesn't mean you have to come out with a 6-figure business or whatever after this quarantining happens. Most people probably won't. But it's good that you come out with something. You have something. So me having this breakdown sort of experience, I love when I have these little breakdowns of thought and whatever to come out with something. So I started reading Outliers. I've had it for like a couple weeks, but have I written anything? Have I read anything in it? No. But now is a good time. When you're in this breakdown state, it is a perfect time to soak in anything and everything to help you get back on track. So it's a good time to read your scriptures, read your mission statement, anything like that, because all those things soak into you a lot more. At least it has for me. Reading the Outliers book today has been extremely influential, and same thing with my scripture studies today. It's all been really, really helpful in me coming to that better sense of who I am, and still I'm trying to figure out who I am and come to a better understanding of my potential. But how have I come to an understanding of my potential up to this point? Question mark. Taking risks, setting habits, putting myself out there. It's come from all these different things. It hasn't come by accident. A lot of it has come by luck, and luck as in preparation met opportunity. I've been blessed with so many opportunities, it's ridiculous. And I try to make the most of them so I can help as many people as I can. And so far up to this point, we're doing okay. Sure, there's been a lot of crazy points, but next time I have this breakdown period, and hopefully it'll be a little while, I'm going to really do the same thing. Take something out of it, look at my habits, how are they doing, look at how I'm doing mentally, and get some thoughts, get some thingies out of it. This podcast episode has been birthed from a lot of the anxieties and struggles I was feeling last night. You know, like if I immediately just got transported into future me right now, I wouldn't know how I got my current job, how I met my wife, how any of these things, I wouldn't know them. There's struggles that lead to these opportunities. And for me, I need to embrace the struggle more. And somebody on my mission trip told me this out of the blue once. He just said, savor the hard stuff. Because I think he's in Taiwan on his mission. He had some difficult times, but he just said, just savor. That just means enjoy, take it all in, and just appreciate the hard stuff. And I don't know what you're going through right now. I really don't. All I know is what I'm going through. And right now I'm struggling with some identity because I want to change the name of this podcast, but I can't right now. Well, I could, but I need to do some more work on it. I love the name of the podcast, Yield Today with Dallin Candland. I think it's good, but I believe there's something better that I could use to reach more people, and so these episodes can be more focused in helping you to get to the next part of your life. And that kind of goes along with just planting seeds, being willing to build now these systems and these opportunities. Well, prepare yourself for opportunities and make the most of where you're at. Because you can't change that. You can't change where you were born. That's done and done. It's over with. But you can make the most of where you'll be in the future. If you go to a specific college over another one, it could change different things. You never know. So that's my little thought process of today. Just remember, if you're struggling with the thought processes or the lies of, I'm not going to make it, I'm not good enough, I need to know everything right off the bat, or any of these different things, just know that you are much more than your current struggles. And you will learn from this. The question really is when are you going to learn from it? So that's all. Thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and also on iTunes and Spotify. Leave a review. I love reading reviews. I haven't actually read any. We've gotten some ratings, but I'd love to read some reviews. That'd be really cool. Anyways, I love you guys. And don't forget to yield today, and it will be a better tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Definitely going to keep going, so I hope you guys all keep learning and growing as well. Hope this episode helped you out. Don't forget, yield today will be better tomorrow.